The LINC Works curriculum has primarily been designed with full-time classes in mind. However, the curriculum can also be used in part-time programs or by tutors if the materials and lesson plans are adapted. Here is a short summary of how part-time instructors and tutors can go about choosing which pieces of a module to use with their learners. After I summarize the steps, I will show you how to use the LINC Works documents to go through an example of this process. First, the instructor or tutor should use the needs assessment to find out what their learner is interested in learning about. After that, the instructor should use the pre-post checklist to get an idea of which tasks the learners think they can already do and which ones they can't do. Instructors and tutors should focus on the tasks that learners say they can't do by themselves. For example, if the learners state that they don't think they can talk to an employment counselor and tell them about a job they're interested in, instructors and tutors should focus on that during their time with the learners. The information gathered from the pre-post checklist will help instructors and tutors select the tasks that they will cover in their course, term, or tutoring sessions. Once the tasks have been chosen, instructors and tutors should find the materials in the module that build the skills that learners will need to accomplish the tasks they picked. For example, if my learner says that they can't talk to an employment counselor and describe a job they're interested in, I, as the tutor or instructor, will look for activities that teach them how to talk about their interests. After that, instructors and tutors should look for the handouts and activities that give learners a chance to practice the task that they chose. After they practice it, they should get feedback on it and have a chance to try again. Instructors and tutors should also take a look at the materials in the module to make sure that the learners get any other important information they may need about working in Canada. And finally, if you choose to, instructors and tutors can assess the tasks that they selected using the PBLA activities in the module. Now, let's take a look at the documents you will need to go through this process. The needs assessment and pre-post checklists should give instructors and tutors a good idea of what the learners are most interested in learning about, as well as which tasks they need the most practice with. Using this information, select a few of the tasks from the pre-post checklist that the learners say they can't do, and plan to cover those in your class or tutoring sessions. For example, if my learner returned this pre-post checklist to me, I would see that there are several tasks where they indicated that they can't do this. On this list, the learner checked this box for 2 speaking and 2 writing tasks. As an instructor or tutor, I would plan to focus on 1 or more of these tasks during the time I spend with my learners. For the rest of this screencast, we will use the task, I can talk to a job counselor to describe a job, as an example. After I have gathered information from my learners and chosen which tasks I will focus on, I will consult the Essential Skills Task Summary table in the Overview section of the Module Activities and Lessons document. For a brief tour of this document, please watch the screencast on the Module Activities and Lessons document. Once I have found the Essential Skills table, I will search for the task that I have chosen to focus on with my learners. You will see that task circled on this table. What I need to do now is identify the lessons where this task is practiced so I can read the instructions for teaching it, find the handouts and files I will need to use, and see if any supporting materials are suggested before teaching. Here, I see that Lesson 6 prepares learners to talk to an employment counselor to describe a job of interest. I can also see that if I want to assess this skill, there is a PBLA, or assessment task, included in this module. To get more information about how to teach this task, I will go to Lesson 6 in the Module Activities and Lessons document. The first thing I will do is read through the needed materials section of the lesson plan and locate the files that it talks about. Do not print the materials at this stage because you may want to cut out certain activities to save time, or if your learners don't need the amount of support that is suggested. Note that the Outcomes and Objectives section is available for instructor or tutor reference. The next thing I'll do is read the lesson instructions step by step, opening the handout files stated in the lesson plan if I think they may be valuable enough to consider using. At this point, part-time instructors and tutors will need to find the activities that will best prepare their learners to accomplish the language tasks they have chosen. Unfortunately, most part-time instructors and tutors will not have time to cover all of the materials suggested, so it is important that they select the handouts and activities that will give the learners the most real-world practice while still giving them enough information to be successful. For example, a part-time ESL instructor may choose to use the handout "What do you like to do?" Graph 2 with their class because it gives the learners the opportunity to talk about their interests with several people, which will help their learners build up the skills they will need to describe a job of interest to an employment counselor. However, one-on-one tutors will probably not choose to complete this handout with their learner because the learner is required to talk to 5 classmates to do this activity successfully. Next, I might take a look at the reading strategy suggested in the lesson plan. If my primary focus is the speaking task in this lesson, I will probably plan to skip this activity, as it would require too much time to be spent on reading, rather than the speaking or writing skills that the learners said they needed the most help with. Using this process, instructors and tutors should be able to select the most relevant handouts and activities to use with their learners after they have decided which tasks from a module to focus on. Skipping ahead to the end of the lesson, anyone focusing on the task "Talk to an employment counselor to describe a job of interest" should definitely plan to use the handout Describing Jobs, because this handout is a direct practice of that task. The lesson plan suggests that this handout be used multiple times to give learners time to practice, get feedback from their instructor, and then try again. After deciding which tasks they want to cover, instructors and tutors should also look through the module materials to decide if any handouts or activities provide important information about working in Canada. For example, Lesson 2 of this module provides an introduction to the topic of working in Canada and gives the learners the opportunities to think about this topic as a whole before getting to the more specific information and tasks in the module. Instructors and tutors should plan to teach the activities and handouts that provide the most valuable information to their learners in addition to the ones that give them the most real-world language practice. Going back to Lesson 6, we can see that this module has a PBLA assessment of the speaking task I selected earlier. Tutors will probably not plan to use this assessment task unless they think it would provide value to their learner in some way, such as boosting their confidence. Part-time instructors should look at the assessment task and evaluate whether or not it would be valuable to their learners and if it lines up with their organization's assessment policies. For example, rural delivery LINC instructors could use this assessment as one of the artifacts for their learners' portfolios. However, they may choose not to use the self-assessment and learning reflection to save time. Other ways that part-time instructors and tutors can save time when using the LINCWorks materials are by assigning tasks as homework and by making reflections bi-weekly or monthly to save class time. Let me summarize the process that you can use if you are a part-time instructor or tutor and want to select the LINCWorks materials that are most relevant for your learners. First, you should use the needs assessment. Then, you should use the pre-post checklist. After that, you can choose the tasks that you will focus on. From there, you can find the materials that build the skills that your learners will need to accomplish the tasks you chose. After that, you should find the materials that practice those tasks. You should also find the materials in the module that give your learners other important information about working in Canada. And finally, if you choose to, you can assess the tasks that you've chosen to cover with your learners. This screencast was funded through a grant from Alberta Advanced Education. The LINCWorks resources were funded by the Employment and Social Development Canada Office of Literacy and Essential Skills.